Hello and welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew and today we're talking about day 10 of switching from Nvidia to AMD as my PC platform. So today's going to be a little bit different. I still have 4 more days before I could actually send this back and, change it out and go back with Nvidia. So these these last 10 days and like the next 4 days are pretty crucial to the decision making um of what's going on. And to tell you the truth, I don't think that I'm going to get to the 14 days before I make my decision. Like, my decision's already been made actually, and I think I'm going to go ahead and ride this out. I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to keep this AMD platform going. um I love this thing. And a lot of it really comes down to the fact that, like, the overall software is so easy to, like, get in there and find stuff. And I'm finding cool things, amazing things like virtual resolution. Virtual resolution. What the heck was that thing again? I got to get over here and find it real quick. Let's see. It was in gaming settings. Let's see what it was. There was oh wait, maybe it was just in gaming, and then down here, not Radeon super resolution. Was it over here in the yeah, global display, virtual super resolution? That thing is amazing. So I made a video earlier. I mean, a lot of people have already commented. They're like, "What are you talking about? You can't compare this to DLSS," and Nvidia has it, I guess, as well. Well, dang. Imagine if Nvidia would have had some really cool software like this. We wouldn't be here on an AMD card now, would we? We probably wouldn't be here if I could have found all this cool stuff on the Nvidia side without having to do tons and tons of research. Like, it was literally right here. I'm going through all the settings in here, like looking over the AMD thing, and I'm like, oh, look at that. And you know what? A lot of it has to do with the overall UI of the AMD Adrenalin software, and the fact that, like, when you hover over the little question mark, it tells you what it does. And so when I'm hovering over the question mark for it, and I'm going through this software and I'm looking at stuff and I'm learning things because it's actually freaking intuitive. I'm reading stuff and I'm like, oh wow, it allows my screen to accept a 4K signal and then downsample it, but still let me have my 4K FPS. See, and that's one thing that you have to understand about this virtual super resolution is what it does is it's essentially you're putting is what you're doing is you would be like, say you would be on a 4K screen, you're selecting your 4K, you're selecting your ultra, everything. So you're going to get that frame rate. You're getting the frame rate of 4K regardless of what you do. So now you can use FSR in conjunction with this to actually claw back some of that lost performance that you would get. But essentially, is what you're doing is you're playing the game at 4K, but you're super sampling it down to your 1440p monitor. So you're still so on a 1440p monitor, at least with mine, if I ran my Xbox to it at 4K so that it would downsample to it, I'm still going to get my 4K image downsampled, but I'm locked to 60 frames a second. And that's the benefit of this virtual super resolution is my frame rate can blow past that because my card is giving me is essentially, I'm just getting a 1440p image, but it's super sampled down from 1440p or from 4K to 1440p. So now I'm getting my frame rate that I'd be getting with 4K, but a way better image quality and far better utilization of my graphics card. Whereas if I was just running it at 1440p, my card might not be fully utilized because 1440p is really easy for this card to run. Like, it's really easy for this card to run. Um, a game like Ghost Recon Wildlands, or an open world game that I like to play, putting those in 4K mode and then playing them at above 60 frames per second, that's actually okay. Like, yeah, the higher frame rate is better, whatever, but having it at 60 frames per second, or even locking it to 60 frames per second and getting a stable overall experience at 60 frames a second with literal maximum freaking visuals is insanely cool. Like, it is very cool. It looks very good. I tried it with Jedi Survivor tonight, and I was like, wow, man, that is incredible. So, like, that's the things that I'm learning about this card, and the things that I find, and I'm able to utilize, because it's intuitive, and it shows me and teaches me the things that I can and can't use. Like right now, I'm using the noise suppression. I'm using the noise canceling function. And the first time when I tried it, when I was doing recordings and everybody was like, oh man, the sound's popping. So I turned it off. Well, I was using the CPU to do that. Whereas now I'm using the GPU to go ahead and to do that. Now, this right here, it even has like this other thing in here that's it's the color. Like you can go into custom color, and then I can go down here and like turn my saturation up. So now my games look even better. Like I got better color in those. And I know, Nvidia's got it too, but you just got to hunt through the whole free. I do not like Nvidia's control panel. Like I don't like it. I think it is way too outdated. It just is one of those things where it's like you got to be like a super nerd or something to like want to sit there and go through all that. And it's like AMD is built for gamers. Nvidia is built for those people that just want to chase whatever they want to chase. But I do feel like Nvidia or AMD is built for gamers, because this is simplistic, man. You get in here and you play around with stuff and you set things up the way you want to, and it's cool. Like you get it is very, very cool. I really appreciate just how easy and accessible the software is for the AMD platform. I really do like that. When I was playing Flight Simulator tonight, and I'm in there and I'm checking that out, and I'm like, wow, man, this is incredible. Like this runs better, it's smoother, it feels really, really good. That's the thing, man. Like I could have went with an XTX, but then the way I look at it is once you top out on a graphics card, there's no going back down. Like once you top out, you are putting yourself in that high quality experience that you're not going to be able to go back down from. Like you'll have to continuously go for the top of the line every time. And as you can see with Nvidia, that's getting ridiculous. And that's why I call the Nvidia thing a hamster wheel. I really did feel like I was on a hamster wheel. I've got people in the community, responding to the last couple videos I made, and they're telling me like, "Oh yeah, and Nvidia has all that," and I'm like, "Okay, guys, like I get that." And I said in the videos that, hey, maybe Nvidia has this. I did say that, and I did try to give them credit for that. But it's so much easier to find and utilize with AMD that it's like, wow, this is cool. I'm telling you guys, I'm not even joking. Like I used to be a hardcore PlayStation fanboy, and Xbox was like second class, second nature. And then I bought like the Xbox One X. I love third party games. Like I do. I play a lot of them. I play a lot of Ubisoft games. So when my Xbox One X was giving me a better quality experience, I was sold. I was like, heck yeah. And then I went over to Xbox Series X with no questions asked, and I was like, yeah, this is great. This is cool. Well, when I got the Nvidia graphics cards, here's the thing. When I got Nvidia, like yeah, it was great. It was good, and it was definitely better than that console experience. But at the same time, I put myself in an interesting bracket when it comes to Nvidia graphics cards, because they're all over the place, and they all lack that perfect balance. In my opinion, they lack that perfect balance. A 3080 with 10 gigs, it just lacks that perfect balance. If that card would have been 12 gigs when it first came out, I know they made a 3080 12 gig with more, and charged you like an arm and a leg more for that. I think it was like 11.99 for that card or something. It was like almost double what you would have paid for the normal 3080. So it was absolutely ridiculous. The fact that I would have had to the fact that you have to pay like way more for something, just for essentially a little bit more performance than a regular 3080 with two more gigs. And like seriously, like that's what you get. That's what you get. So when I'm looking at Nvidia's stack, their lineup this generation for the 40 series, I'm looking at that, and my heart's just like, dang dude, if you really want to stay with Nvidia, you have to get a 4090. You cannot play around with anything else in the stack because it just doesn't have the longevity baked into it. And it doesn't. You don't buy a 4K graphics card to play at medium settings. Like you just don't. And once you get into PC and you start fumbling around with this stuff, you're going to understand that, like, yeah, if you get into the 60 series and you're okay with that, then that's fine. You don't need to move up, because I'm not even joking when I say that 3060 Ti to that 3080, it was so minimal. Like the one thing that you really notice is visuals, and visual quality was essentially the same across the board until you start getting to the VRAM issues, and then it's just a joke, because now you're set up and now you're playing, you're on this high, you're like, yeah, I can even play 4K on the 3060 Ti, and then boom, instantly new games start coming out, and now that's not possible. Now that's not even close to possible, and DLSS isn't going to save your VRAM. So then when you go to a 3080 and now you're basic, like the 3080 10 gig is the dumbest freaking card ever made. In my opinion. Like, why did they even make that? Like, what card, what is that card for? The top of the line, it should have been a 3070. That card should have been a 3070 Ti. That should have been the 3070 Ti, and they should have, like, the stack should have just went down from that, from the 3080. It should have been a 3070 Ti down, just like the 4070 Ti is now. That's what the 3080 10 gig should have been. And then the 3080 should have came out with a 12 gig right from launch. That's the thing. Like, I'm so, like I got so sick and tired of Nvidia, and just like, oh my gosh, like, what do I get? What do I get? Do I just go for the 4090? Like, that's their plan. That's what they want everybody to buy, as a 4090. I don't think Nvidia really has any more, like the 4060. You'll notice, like, the 4060 Ti is coming with the 16 gig version. The 4060 Ti and the 4090, those are the only two cards they care about selling. The 4080, they're just like, we'll just give it as many gigs as the consoles and call it a day. And that's exactly what it was. So then when you look over at AMD across the fence, and you see that, like, hey man, the 7900 has a 20 gig buffer, and then the 7900 XTX has the 24 gig buffer, you're like, that's interesting. And then if you look at it, you're like, hey man, the 3070 or the 7900 XT is pretty much 3090 Ti class performance for literally half the price of what that card, a little bit less than half the price of what that card cost MSRP. So then you're thinking to yourself, well, gosh, dude, and this is my train of thought too. Man, I was pretty happy with the 3080 for the most part, but if I can get, instead of having to buy a 4090, if I can get 3090 Ti performance for the other $700 after that, like, I mean, pretty much after buying the 3080 and the after buying the 3080 and the 7900 XT, like, I'm still under budget for the 3090 Ti. I'm still under budget. Like, I still save money and I still get that performance, because I honestly, I didn't really want to have to upgrade. Like, I didn't want to have to do that, but my hand was forced. I was forced into it because I made the wrong decision. Instead of just going with, like, with what all the Nvidia guys tell you, just go for the max, just go for the max. Well, obviously they know that, like, once you go max, there's no going back. There's no going back. And now they suffer just like they want you to suffer. I know you guys like that. And now they want you to suffer too by having to spend that much money. I like PC gaming, but the cost of PC gaming could very quickly ruin that. It could very quickly ruin that for me, because as much as I love new tech and I want to spend that money and I want to try new things, there also comes a point where there's, like, a lot of other things that I want to invest in too, that I don't want to just sit here and have to buy $2,000 graphic cards every 2 years. Like, I don't want to do that. And that's exactly the reason I didn't top out with the AMD either. That's why I didn't go for the XTX. I wanted the one just under that, so that I can stay in that range. Because when the next AMD cards come out, they're going to be more powerful than these ones, and when the next Nvidia cards come out, they're going to be more powerful than these ones. Once you max out, there's no going back. There really isn't. And so I feel like with the recent discounts for the 7900 XT, I think this card is very, very good. very good. I still get ray tracing. I can still utilize that. And I still get, pretty decent playable frame rate for the most part with that enabled. I still get really good performance versus RT when at 1440p. Like no problem. I can pretty much run everything with RT at 1440p and still have a playable experience. Like that's not a big deal at all. When it comes to certain stuff, like the path tracing, we're not there with AMD. So if you're on Nvidia and you've had a taste of path tracing, and I think that why do you think everybody covers that stuff when they're like, yeah, let's put Portal out there, and we'll put path tracing in it, and Minecraft and all of these other games, and we'll put path tracing in them. They're trying to get you hooked on this technology so that you'll continue to pay that money every time a new graphics card comes out. That's why they seed all these people with all these graphics cards, and they give everybody these graphics cards so that they can talk about these features. That's why everybody's always bumbling on and bumbling on and bumbling on about DLSS and ray tracing and all of that. And it's like, who cares, man? Like, what's the actual rasterization? What can this card do without all that nonsense? That's what you should be asking yourself, because let's face it, man. Yeah, games are going to come out with ray tracing, but you're still going to have other games that are going to come out that are not going to have that. And what are you going to do? Are you just going to limit yourself to ray tracing only? No, I don't want to be super dependent on that. I want to be able to still enjoy video games, and I don't need ray tracing and everything to have a good time. I mean, personally, give me a really big, cool open world, and I'll have fun in there. I don't care about ray tracing, especially when you turn it on and you see how much of a performance hit you take. It looks good, it looks cool, but at the same time, you're like, man, what happens when UE5 and all these other technologies come out and they start to build out these worlds with this newer technology? You're gonna want you're gonna have to choose. Like, do I want a good looking game or do I want ray tracing? Because if you go anywhere under a 4090, I just don't feel like you're gonna get I just don't feel like you're going to get that bang for your buck. Like I don't. I don't think that anything in that 40 series stack, except for possibly the 4060 Ti, depending on the price, is going to be worth much other than a 4090. Like the 3060 Ti will have 16 gigs of RAM. That should get you really high quality 1080p, possibly good 1440p for the most of your games. That should do pretty good. The 4080 though, with that being a card that people are going to want to play 4K with that card, because that to me, if to me the 80 class is a 4K card. That's to me that's a 4K card. When you get into the 70 class, and the 70 is supposed to be the borderline to me for 1440p to 4K, you're supposed to be able to. That's the one that you're supposed to be able to maybe run 4K with good settings. Not the 80 series. The 80 series should be 4K forward. Like there should be very little compromise when it comes to the 4080 when it comes to 4K. That card should have the necessary VRAM to run 4K. Like it should. The 4070 should be the one that, like, yeah, maybe we'll run it, maybe we won't. You know what I mean? And the 3060 Ti should be like, yeah, this we can run 4K. And then the 50 series is supposed to be their 1080p cards. That's where it's supposed to be. Like the 50, 60, and 70 are supposed to be, that middle line between really super high refresh rate 1080p and borderline 4K. That's the way I look at it, and that's how my mind thinks about it. When I go to a store to buy a graphics card, that's how my mind is seeing it. Now with the AMD cards, like the 7900, that is supposed to be their 4K cards. And they do deliver 4K, and they have the VRAM to back it up with the settings, and it does run 4K. Now, you would think that you could expect at least a 60 FPS for the most part in 4K, and everything that I've tested has been that, like easily on the 7900 XT. The XTX is the one that's supposed to push it a little bit further and possibly give you better ray tracing performance, maybe a little bit higher frame rate, but that's where I think it is. And then the 78, 77, and then the 76 cards, those ones go up and down the spectrum from 1080p to 4K as well. So I do believe that this 7900 XT delivers an experience a lot better than what a lot better than what I feel like I was getting with the 3080. I feel like this one here is going to deliver further into the future than that 3080 did. That 3080 was barely. Oh man, I got it at the end, basically right before the new cards were announced and we're going to launch, and it lasted literally a couple months. Literally a couple months, and then we started getting those next gen games that were coming out to it, and it buried that card very quickly at 4K. And then it was starting to get questionable at 1440p. I was like, wow, is this real? Like, I mean, I played all through Jedi Survivor, and I wish I would have played through Jedi Survivor on the 7900 XT because it's already a far more stable experience. Plus, it has had a lot of patches, and DLSS, didn't save it, and it doesn't really save a whole lot, but it is nice to have because it does give you a little. I'll tell you what, playing with DLSS quality barely gives you like 10 frames. Gives you like 10 frames, maybe 15 if you go to balance, 20 if you go to performance. It's the same with FSR. You get a few frames, like not enough to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's like world changing. And now you got the frame generation. The frame generation will probably come to these cards too. I don't know, man. This is a tough decision, but I know that I feel better about AMD now than I did before I bought one. Before I bought one, I just heard the same thing that you hear all the time, like, oh man, their software sucks and they're not very good and Nvidia's way better and all of that. And I'm like, man, if I would have bought an AMD card first, I think I would have been happier long term. Like I think I would have been happier long term. But no, because I would have probably wanted to try Nvidia too. I think that AMD, if I would have bought AMD first, I would have upgraded to Nvidia a lot faster, and then I would have been like, then I really would have been stuck on that hamster wheel because then I'd have been like, oh yeah, AMD was great, but this is way better because it's got the super ray tracing and all of that. Well, now this is kind of cool that I was able to try AMD after coming into it. I'm not gonna lie, lower expectations, and if you decide to get AMD, you will have lower expectations for it as well. But once you get in here and you start playing around with things and you start seeing things, and like it did take a couple of days. The first couple of days were a little bit rougher than they are now. Definitely a lot rougher. Plus, I was having the issue with the memory, and that was definitely putting a lot more doubt in my head. I was thinking, man, this really does suck. My first experience with AMD. I'm so glad I stuck through it and I continued to look for solutions to find a way to fix my problem. And now that I've fixed it, man, I'm happy. I'm happy as a clam. And yes, it is unfair to it is really unfair to compare this card to the 3080, but I don't necessarily think that's true. Like I don't. Like the 3080 was supposed to be a 4K card. And if we're going by 2 years, if that is how long that they can guarantee that card is a 4K card, we'll see. Like we'll see at the end of these 2 years with the 7900 XT just how much farther it will keep going. Like if it'll be like it's time to upgrade because it just can't do it anymore. And see, here's the test too, because we're gonna have UE5. We'll start having UE5 games within the next 2 years. So that is going to test this card like like the first batch of next gen games started testing the 3080. So we will see. And these are the metrics that I'm going to be looking at to see, if AMD will hold up better long term or if it's going to be Nvidia. You know what I mean? This is interesting, man. Like I like this. I like being in this position. I do. Like I'm at that point where like I do have a lot of pride in my new build because I built it myself. Like I do have pride in that. And now that I'm starting to see things and I'm starting to find stuff on the AMD side that's gonna also, when and if I ever go back to an Nvidia card, I'll be able to look for these types of things in their software and be able to utilize that better. Because I don't feel like I got the full Nvidia experience now that people are coming out and saying that yeah, I could have utilized this stuff over there. But at the same time, that's kind of Nvidia's fault for not updating their overall UI and their software, like not bringing it all together. Like the GeForce experience, very cool. You get in there, but I'll tell you what, this is far better than that. Like this experience, like when you're using GeForce now to like record video and all of that stuff, like it works. But this right here is so much more seamless and integrated so much more so much better that I like this a lot better. This is definitely better. And I feel like if Nvidia was to pull all their software together, this is the big thing for Nvidia. They need to pull all their software together and get it good so that people can like get in there and find things and be able to adjust settings and have it be nice. Whereas on the AMD side, they just I don't know, man. Like, do they really need to upgrade their hardware more to compete with Nvidia, or do they just need more people to buy it? Because in my experience with what I'm playing right now, I feel like anybody on an AM4 platform, if they would have switched over and got this card and put it in their AM4 platform, I think they would have been really happy with the results from that. But I do think that there was a lot of problems going AM5 and then getting this and having things just not jiving because it's a really new platform, AM5, and the other one's far more mature, better drivers, better support, a lot more tricks, and people know about it more. So the AM5 platform is really new, and people are probably just having problems with that. So I think that it just kind of depends on where you are. Like if you're on an AM4 platform and you've got everything really good, yeah, slot this card in there, play through the next generation with this card, and then once AM5 matures enough to where their 8,000 processors come out, and then their 8,000 GPUs, then maybe upgrade to AM5 and get all that new stuff when it's a little bit more mature. But right now, this is pretty cool, man. I like this journey that I'm on. I'll probably do the the day thing up to day 14, and then we'll just move forward with something else. Because I mean, 14 days was what I was planning because of the, like the return policy. I was going to make my decision at the end of day 14. But I feel like I've gotten enough experience with this, and I've looked at it enough, and I'm getting good enough to results to where I'm just like, yeah, I think this will do. I think this will cover me. I want to stick this out. I want to see how this goes for a while. I want to give it at least a minimum of 8 months before I try to do any other upgrades or any other thing to like my PC. Because right now I feel like the 7900 XT is going to be a fairly popular card. I think actually this whole generation, I think I could probably just stick with the 7900 XT for the next couple of years, honestly, to be truthful, and still be able to make content with it and still be able to use it here on the channel. I don't see how that would change. So this is going to be interesting, man. When the 50 when the 50 series comes out, and the the 8000 series comes out for both of the next ones, it's going to be it's going to be an interesting choice to try to decide which way I'm going to go. So if you guys like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. We will continue at least to day 14, and then we'll move forward from that. So if there's any questions that you guys have, or anything you want to anything you want to ask, or anything you want to know, please say something in the comment section, and I will do my best to answer that as fast as possible. I will be trying VR this weekend, so we'll get you some VR information on this as well, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.